Hello Superset Maniacs and welcome back to my channel. Storytelling is what makes people invested in a TV series, a book, a sports competition, a wrestling show, you name it. And what makes a story more interesting is a rivalry. Even though rivalries usually occur between people with different beliefs, ideas and ideologies, ultimately most rivalries come down to two individuals reaching for the same goal. Our beautiful sport of bodybuilding does not lack its own fair share of rivalries, and this is what we're going to talk about in today's video. Which are the 10 best bodybuilding rivalries? We have one simple rule for this list, only one entry per bodybuilder. Let me give you a quick example. We are not gonna see Ronnie vs Flex in this list, as Ronnie vs Jay was a better rivalry, simple as that. Okay, let's not waste any more time and get to the list, and we begin with number 10. Big Ramy vs Brandon Curry. I wanted to start the video with this one, even though this one does not feel as a genuine rivalry yet. However, this is the closest thing we have to a bodybuilding rivalry nowadays. We can look back to the 2018 Mr. Olympia event when the first glimpse of a rivalry between these two occurred. Ramy entered the event as a fierce main threat to the title, but he disappointed and finished only 6th. Brandon finished 5th and took away that Olympia qualification from him. Ramy did not qualify for the 2019 Olympia, which Brandon was going to win. Ramy came back in 2020 and won the whole show. He did it again in 2021, and for both years, Brandon Curry was the runner-up. These two seem to be the top 2 bodybuilders in the world for the last couple of years and probably for at least a few years to come, unless guys like Harry Chupin or Nick Walker have other plans. In number 9 we have Dexter Jackson vs Branch Warren. This rivalry took off at the 2009 Olympia, where Dexter was entering as the reigning Olympia champion. We all know Jay came back at his all-time best that year and reclaimed his lost title. However, Dexter did not finish second, but third behind Branch, who controversially finished second. Dexter would finish 4th at the Arnold in a few months in 2010 behind Greene, Heath and Branch Warren again. By the time Phil and Kai were establishing themselves as top bodybuilders, but yet again Dexter was overshadowed by Branch Warren. Branch was going to win both the 2011 and 2012 Arnold Classic events, as Dexter Jackson was on a downhill path in his career. Dexter would come back as a top threat by 2013 when he won the Arnold, and 2015 when he finished runner-up at the Olympia again. But by this time, Branch Warren's peak years were long gone, mostly due to injuries. In number 8 we have Flex Wheeler vs Kevin Levrone. You could argue Flex vs Ronnie or Kevin vs Dorian were more intense, but as stated in the beginning, we're gonna have only one entry per bodybuilder in this list, and Ronnie and Dorian are involved in other rivalries, as we're about to see in the coming minutes. Flex vs Kevin was different, as they were not very consistent. When one of them peaked, the other one was off or absent, except maybe for the 96 Arnold when both of them nailed it. Kevin came on top at this event. Neither of them has ever won the Olympia, and the two of them are probably the best 2 bodybuilders in history who did not win the ultimate prize in bodybuilding. They are the best uncrowned Mr. Olympias if you want. Kevin finished runner-up 4 times, 2 times behind Dorian in 92 and 95 and 2 times behind Ronnie in 2000 and 2002. Flex finished runner-up 3 times, 1 time behind Dorian in 93 and 2 times behind Ronnie in 98 and 99. Number 7 goes back to the golden era of bodybuilding, Frank Zane vs Robbie Robinson. At that time, the Olympia had two divisions, the minus 200 pounds and the plus 200 pounds. Each division would have a winner which would go head to head for the overall title. So in 1977 and 1978, Robbie Robinson would win the plus 200 pounds division but lose overall to Frank Zane, who was winning the minus 200 pounds division. In 79, Robbie competed below 200 pounds but finished third behind Frank Zane and Boyer Coe. Robbie Robinson has never won the Mr. Olympia title, but when he was closest in doing so, he was stopped by Frank Zane. Number 6 in our list is Chris Bumstead vs Breon Ansley. We stick to classic bodybuilding, but modern day classic bodybuilding if you want. Anyway, this rivalry put the classic bodybuilding division on the map. So the classic division was introduced in 2016 and Danny Hester was crowned champion. But for the following 5 next years, we had only 2 champions, Breon Ansley in 2017 and 2018, and since 2019, Chris Bumstead has won it 3 times. Breon finished second behind C-Bum in 2019, and in 2020 and 2021 he finished third behind both C-Bum and Terence Ruffin. In my opinion, at least in 2020, Breon was robbed for that second place, but this might be just me. This rivalry put this division on the map in my opinion, not only because of their physiques, but also because of the chemistry between the two. For years it really seemed like these guys hated each other, while nowadays they seem more fair play, respecting each other's achievements, but still trash talking and acting like they are in the WWE when they have the chance. In number 5 we have Dorian Yates vs Shawn Ray. Dorian Yates dominated the most part of the 90s decade, winning 6 Mr. Olympia titles, but some of them not without controversy, at least if you ask Shawn Ray. Shawn Ray has finished second behind Dorian Yates 2 times, in 94 and 96 when he was sure he should have won, especially in 94 when Dorian first competed with half of a biceps on his left arm, due to an injury. Shawn Ray, on the other hand, was a very complete bodybuilder with no noticeable weaknesses, but his main disadvantage being his size, especially against a mass monster like Dorian Yates. Shawn Ray was very vocal about him losing to Dorian Yates when he felt like he should have won, and this made this rivalry exciting for those times. But I don't think Dorian Yates cared too much about this rivalry. Dorian was not into drama, he was not into showing off, he came, he dominated, he won and repeated this for 6 straight years until he retired. In number 4 we have Lee Haney vs Rich Gaspari. Sometimes the 80s seems like the least exciting decade in bodybuilding, when in the first half from 1980 to 1985 we had 5 different Olympia winners, and then for the rest of the decade you had Lee Haney dominating the industry. However, the guy that gave Haney the hardest time was Rich Gaspari, who finished second at the Olympia behind Haney 3 times between 1986 and 1988. Rich Gaspari was also the winner of the first ever Arnold Classic event in 1989, where Lee Haney was absent of course. Rich Gaspari remained an uncrowned Mr. Olympia, and we can say that Lee Haney is the main reason for that. Haney gave no chance to his opposition during his reign. In number 3 we have Arnold Schwarzenegger vs Sergio Oliva, and this very well may be your best rivalry of all time. The reason I chose to put it only in third is because at the time it was happening, there weren't as many eyes on it as for the top 2 rivalries we're gonna reveal in the next minutes. as back in the 60s and 70s bodybuilding was not the industry we know today. This rivalry took off in 1969 when Arnold placed second at his Olympia debut against Sergio Oliva, who was winning his third consecutive title at the time. The next year, in 1970, Arnold got his revenge and beat Sergio. This rivalry transcended the IFBB, as Arnold was Joe Withers' man and Sergio competed in several other federations like the NABA. This was the supposed reason Sergio was disqualified for the 71 Olympia, because he has competed in other federations. Arnold was the only participant and obviously won the 71 Olympia. In 72, Sergio came back but got a controversial second place to Arnold and hasn't competed in the IFBB again until the mid-80s. This rivalry is polarizing people today probably more than it did back then, and like I mentioned, this could very well be the best rivalry of all time. In number 2 we have Ronnie Coleman vs Jay Cutler. I know, I get it if you're upset this one isn't first on this list, but I'll explain my reasoning while I reveal my number 1 pick, which should be obvious by now. Back to Ronnie vs Jay. This is a rivalry that lasted longer than any other, and it didn't finish by one or the other quitting competing in a certain federation, or at all for that matter. These guys went head to head with each other for 7 straight years if you want, from 2001 to 2007 when Ronnie retired indeed, but because it was time to retire, not to prove his frustrations. This rivalry started in 01 when Jay finished second behind Ronnie at the Olympia for the first time. Jay took off 02 but came back in 03 to challenge Ronnie again and finished second again. Jay was going to place second behind Ronnie 2 more times, in 04 and 05 until he finally beat him for the title in 06. In 07 Ronnie tried his luck one more time but finished only 4th and retired from competitive bodybuilding after. This rivalry was the most fair play between two of the best bodybuilders of all time that respected each other a lot. My number 1 pick for the best bodybuilding rivalry of all time is Phil Heath vs Greene. The difference between this rivalry and the Ronnie Jay or Arnold Sergio ones is that it happened in an era where the fans could get involved more than ever, the social media era. You couldn't stay away from this rivalry, you were either a Phil supporter or a Greene supporter. Phil became the ultimate heel in this story, while Kai was the ultimate fan favorite, who by the way remains the most followed bodybuilder on social media. First time they really went head to head was at the 2010 Arnold, but their rivalry took off in 2012 when Phil placed first and Kai placed runner-up at the Olympia for the first time. Kai was going to place second 2 more times behind Phil in 2013 and 2014. In 2014 the rivalry was at its peak. I remember the press conference that year where they really put out a show. There were also memorable fights on stage between the two as well as the controversy in regards to the result, this being one of Kai's best years and one of Phil's least impressive ones. The year where his distended midsection problems occurred for the first time. After this event, Kai refused to enter the Olympia ever again, and he only did 3 Arnold Classic shows in 2016 in Columbus, Australia and Brazil if I'm not mistaken, and unfortunately he unofficially retired from bodybuilding to the day. What do you guys think about this list? Which is your favorite bodybuilding rivalry and why? Let us all know in the comment section below. Also don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe so you're never late for the party. Thank you guys and see you next time.